Hello, everybody. Welcome again, Wednesday. And of course, powered for SP3. How are you today, my friend? 1 day removed from his birthday. Happy belated birthday to you, SP3. I hope you had a fantastic day. 1 year older, do you feel any different?
I feel SP33 to today after
There's a
yesterday.
lot of numbers.
It is Wednesday. You know what that means. Powered 4 TV, Powered 4 SP3 invading the airways on YouTube. And we start the day off with John Scott. Talk about a little bit of everything from the wrestling world. So I'm ready to get into it, John.
Absolutely. Well, you know what, mate? I thought, being your birthday and everything else, it wouldn't be traditional without us, giving you a little something from this side of the pond, SP3, of course. So I've got something, but then what happened was it hit me. I had no wrapping paper. So I kind of thought, what have I been watching the last, 30 years of my life on TV, WWE? What would they do if they run out of wrapping paper? I tell you what they do. They'd wrap it in recycle bin liner. That's what they would do. So that's what I've done. I've taken from them, and let me unveil it for you, because I know you can't do it all the way from New York.
Yes.
But what we have here, SP3, I'll describe it to you in the words of Byron Saxton. What we have here is a box-like structure. Box-like structure here on the show for anybody that remembers that. And let me take out of the box what I have for you, SP3, that I will send to you personally out of my collection, a Bret Hart t-shirt signed by the man himself, coming to your way, Mr. SP3. I had this done many years ago now.
Oh my
goodness.
I
know you're a Bret fan. So I thought, there you go, SP3 33, Bret the Hitman Hart, and furthermore, SP3, because there's nothing lost here with our resources on this show, of course. I thought we'd spice it up. We'd give you a little bit more of a personal touch with our production. So here we go. I'm changing it over. We've got a slightly modify it so we can get you in the boxes. I had this problem last week, but we're getting there. So everyone can see where to go. Tru Heel Heat. There you go. Down the bottom. Subscribe to those guys. Like and subscribe to our video as well. You know what? I was looking at YouTube the other day, SP3, and we're 100 people short of making that 2K. So I'm making it my business over the next month or so. I want to get to that 2K. That's the next goal. We're 100 short, dead on the mark. So please subscribe if you haven't. Keep the comments coming. SP3, before we dive into this crazy world of professional wrestling, I'm going to dive into the comments because I promised Rachel that she could have the first question. She sent us a super chat. And I wanted to make it up to her by having the first question. So I said, come up with something really good for SP3. But she's got this. I couldn't come up with anything, an amazing question. So I'm just going to ask SP3 what he did for his birthday. Well, there you go. So that's as good as any other question.
That's a great question. Rachel was great during our live stream A&E biography, Shawn Michaels review. She added a lot of analysis herself. She's a big Bret Hart fan herself, so it's great to see Rachel again. And what did I do for my birthday? I spent the birthday with my lovely family. I got woken up. My wife blessed me with a whole bunch of gifts. I got a picture of a cake with Kenny Omega and myself on the cake saying happy birthday, daddy. So that was great. And my wife she always likes to throw in a little bit of a funny gift in there as well. So she got me, of course, this shirt right here. Becky Lynch the Man. Knowing that I'm a big Ronda Rousey fan, she got me a Becky Lynch shirt.
Well, you're wearing it.
I told her I would. I told her I would today since I'm on YouTube a lot today. So I said I would wear the shirt because she put a lot of thought into it. And I love her so much for making my birthday special. But yeah, I just spent it with the family. I spent an hour on Twitch with the guys over at Fightful on The Distraction, Jeremy Lambert and Joe Hilbert. We watched bad wrestling matches which included Jerry King Lawler and his band of midgets versus Doink
God,
and
I
the
remember that.
Clowns R Us from Survivor Series 1994. And then I
Yeah.
suggested, because it was my birthday, they gave me a match to suggest, and I suggested the Kennel from Hell. So I had to watch that for an hour. We talked about basketball. We also talked about Mighty Ducks, because we're all three of us are watching Mighty Ducks Game Changers. So I'm going to be back on the Fightful Twitch for a Mighty Ducks Game Changer podcast. And we're going to debate who's the greatest Mighty Ducks player of all time. So stay tuned for that. And I made an appearance on the phone-in for Wrestling Daily with my daughter.
I saw that. I catch that part live, as a matter of fact.
My
and
daughter,
your
Harlow.
daughter got a cameo in there as well. First time ever, I believe.
Yes, she made her debut on Wrestling Daily. She's been on Tru Heel Heat before. You can go into the archives for True Rewind. She's been on True Rewind before, but she needed to make an appearance on Wrestling Daily, so she made her debut. So it was a very fun, a very relaxing birthday, and I got to give it to my wife and my kids for making it special.
Yep, that's where. Speaking of t-shirts, I can't get it in the shot quite, but I am wearing Stu's wrestling podcast. He'll love that. I don't wear it enough for him, so just so that he knows, I'm going to try and, there you go, I'll try and get it in the shot a little bit more. Here's an interesting one. Honest Beyond Reasonable. Very interesting name here. Do you watch The Lost Treasures on A&E? Was going to ask what you thought of it, John, being a collector yourself of magazines and also someone who looks antiques in general. I think that might be like. Thanks.
Yeah, it made it sound like you look like an antique.
I am an antique. You're right. I'm getting to that age now, I think, where I'm becoming a collectible, maybe, for somebody out there. I have watched the A&E Treasures, and I watched the Jerry Lawler one, which I thought was quite interesting because they touched on one of my most famous angles they ever did, which was with Andy Kaufman. Yes. But the last one I watched, I just thought I can't watch anymore because it was the Booker T one where they was going after his robe. They go to this poor guy's house. He's very reluctant to want to, give it up or whatever. I can't remember exactly what they want from him, but he's very reluctant to want to do it. I think he wants like 10K more. Anyway, the next scene, they travel to Texas. They meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. They try and basically, put the guilt on this guy by saying, well, we got Stone Cold. If I was Stone Cold, I'd have turned around and said, why don't you just pay the 10K that you'd have probably spent to get over to Texas on a flight with all your crew, all the expenses, just give the bloke 10 grand. Why are you coming out of it? So I kind of lost, I kind of don't see it as very authentic as I'd like. It's not the sort of, I don't know, American Pickers that I'm used to watching. It's memorabilia. This is stuff where WWE want it and they want to store it in their warehouse for about a year until they bring it out for access. That's what I'm reading into it. SB3, have you been following any more of these lost treasures, or have you given up?
I haven't really been interested in it at all, to be honest.
Says it all.
I watched the Undertaker one, which was cool because you got to see one of my favorites on NXT right now, Top Dollar. I saw that he's like the host of it, so that was cool to find out. And I loved his interaction with the Undertaker, and Undertaker putting on the old purple jacket and discovering the whole Phantom mask. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I didn't need to watch the whole thing because it's up on YouTube. I think they just take the best parts and put them up on YouTube. So I don't really need to watch the series anymore. Actually,
you're spot on there because I actually that's where I watched the clip from, and it was just from YouTube. So I thought, that's handy. It condenses it for me. It's great for time. Yeah. Carnage Pain. Hi, chaps. I thought Backlash was good apart from the zombie nonsense. P.S. Did you see there's a new trend to tweet Dave Bautista if you're unhappy with current WWE product? Yeah, I sent SB3 because Carnage Pain sent it to me on my emails, and then I sent it to SB3. And apparently, since Dave Bautista posted it, loads of people, anytime they're upset with WWE now, they just tweet Dave Bautista to want to change it. So he's started off something now that he's probably going to regret. But yeah, poor old Dave Batista, SP3, still getting it in the neck, even though he's not with the company anymore. He's still getting the blame.
Because
Maybe he's one of the writers.
He's a part of the movie that led to probably the worst match of 2021 so far, which was Damian Priest versus The Miz in a zombie lumberjack match. I will never forgive WWE for making me watch that, and I will never forgive the fans of Tru Heel Heat, the fans of Powered4SP3, fans of Wrestling Daily, fans of Smack Talk and Sports Keto Wrestling, all the places that I do and contribute to. Y'all make me watch this type of stuff, and that was very embarrassing to watch as a professional wrestling fan.
There you go. He didn't enjoy it. Rambo, he's back. He's always here, this bloke. I watched back an old WWF Survivor Series in 1996. The atmosphere at the Garden was amazing, and Sid was so over. He was a lot better than what people give him credit for. Do you agree? Is he Hall of Famer? Well, I don't think he's in it, from what I recall, but he probably should be in it. I mean, considering it, I mean, basically, if you're a legend, you kind of are in it, aren't you, really, SP3? I mean, it's just a matter of time now, isn't it, surely, for someone like Sid to go in? I'll say this much. I'd like to see Sid go in there, like, while he's around. I hate it when, like, you had all this time to induct somebody, and, like, Vader especially, and, who they knew was ill for, like, years, and they never bothered to do it. And I could never understand that, because he was always going to go in there, but it's like a timing thing. But Sid, would he go in you at the Hall of Fame for you, SP3?
I think the biggest, as far as like post-Homerus, post like their death, the person that I think of the most is Macho Man Randy Savage. He should have definitely been in the Hall of Fame way before he passed away in 2011, and he didn't even get in right after his death. It took like 4 more years for the Papo family to agree to like put him in. As far as Sid, I mean, the WWE Hall of Fame is an arbitrary thing. It's basically however Vince feels, whoever Vince and Triple H decide they want to call that year, that's who goes into the Hall of Fame.
So they want to hang about with.
If you're a legend and a former WWE champion like Sid is, yes, he is Hall of Fame worthy. And funny that he mentioned Survivor Series 1996, because that was the first pay-per-view that I ever went to, John.
Wow.
I was only 8 years old. I went to Survivor Series 1996. I'll always remember that because I saw the debut of Rocky Maivia, who would go on to be The Rock, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. At the time, I was a big either like Brett and Shawn Michaels were my 2 favorites. So I was conflicted because the fans were like leaning towards Austin on that night with Brett and Austin. One of the best matches I ever saw live, especially when I was a kid. And then in the main event, I was a big Shawn Michaels fan, and I went with my mom because I was only 8 years old, and I was almost in tears by like the middle or towards the end of that matchup because the fans loved Sid and were booing Shawn Michaels, and my mom,
even Jose Lothario with that didn't get sympathy.
And my mom, to make me feel better, she was like, "Why are you upset? They're chanting your name because my name is Sid, and all the fans are chanting Sid." She's like, "Why are you upset? They're chanting your name." I was like, "Oh, Mom."
Even at 8, he couldn't be fooled. Mate, it's so funny that you say that was your first event that you went to. That's amazing, because that is one of my all-time favorite WWF pay-per-views of all times. I can't tell you how many times I've watched that show just because it's got variety in it. There's some very important matches in that, and some really weird debuts and people going as well. Just a real kind of mixed time of going forward and backwards at the same. But yeah, you had Mankind and Undertaker, as I recall, Paul Bearer in a shark tank kind of thing. That's right, shark cage going above. And of course, the famous Bret Hart Austin match, which in my opinion gets overlooked because of the WrestleMania 13 match. But if that had been the only match they had, that would have got a lot more attention, I believe, today, because it was like watching like a big, like, kind of describe it as a boxing fight. Like, it was like, who is going to win this? And yeah, they told a great story. So yeah, very fascinating there. Rambo.
Speaking of the A&E specials, that was like one of my biggest like gripes against the Austin one. They acted like the Bret Hart feud never happened. Like I this is when I was like, okay, yeah, I know this is like A&E working with WWE, but this seems more of like the WWE angle of it, because for years, WWE, the way they tell the Austin story is he cut that promo after winning the King of the Ring, and then he's straight to the top. He became the biggest babyface after. That's not what happened. Literally, the next big show, SummerSlam, this dude's on the free-for-all, the pre-show against Yokozuna. Like he was not pushed immediately after the King of the Ring. It took Bret Hart basically returning to the WWF and choosing Stone Cold to be the guy that he feuded against in his return. That was the thing that really took Austin to the next level. And I thought it was a crime that they didn't mention the feud like at all. Like they literally showed the footage from WrestleMania 13 and skimmed over the rest of that. Like they didn't even mention how important that was to his career.
I hope they put that in the Brett side of it, maybe. I hope, because it's like a big thing. I felt like his storyline, but yeah, what a rip-off. Also, Rambo, enjoyed Tru Heel Heat review show, but it also made me depressed after. There you go, SP. Look what you're doing to people. I think he's talking about the stuff. I mean, I know we had Rock Austin same era with spiced up Vince Boss dynamic, but Brett and HBK felt so real. The belt seemed real. I think when I go back and I think, like, even watching that Shawn Michaels documentary like I was earlier, you do get a flood of memories of thinking what it was like. And it was very interesting, because there was one point in it where they do the whole curtain call business and how bad it was. And you got Bruce Pritchard going, that's not the thing to do. You don't have people turning up in their drones and then say it's nothing. I'm thinking today, they're not talking about like that today. They can't wait to tell you about what's happened. They have their own shows now. So it goes to show how much that's changed in all that. SB3, do you miss the times of the 90s for you? Or have you been happier in other generations?
I mean, I think that the greatest year in WWE history is 2000. And a lot of that was down to, The Rock being at like the top level, making it to like that top babyface. And towards the end of the year, Stone Cold coming back and still being a top babyface. You had Triple H, probably the greatest year of his career as far as like the great matches that he had, from, his feud with Cactus Jack, aka Mick Foley, to his matches with The Rock, to his whole storyline with Kurt Angle and Stephanie McMahon, matches with Chris Benoit. Like this was, and then Kurt Angle's rise as a rookie in winning all those titles. Like there was so many great things about the year 2000. So that's why I always say that's the greatest year. But 96, 97, 98 for WWF, those were like the precursors to the greatness that was 2000. Like those were consecutive, I think, 3 really strong years. Like 96 towards the end really got better. Then 97, I feel like it's the best year ever for like Raw television. Like as far as Monday Night Raw, that was the best year in my opinion. And then 98, you had Austin's rise, the Austin Vince storyline and stuff like that. As far as like, I think that Austin and Rock, there will never be an era like that. There will never be 2 guys that can be considered the greatest of all time in one era. Like these were guys that delivered great matches. Not only that, they were bona fide stars and were draws. Brett and Shawn Michaels were great wrestlers, but the both of them never were really that type of draw. Like Shawn Michaels was champion and the top guy in one of the lowest drawing and profitable years in WWF due to them going against the hottest thing in the business, which was the NWO in the beginning. And Bret Hart just never just had his time to really be that top draw like here in the United States. He was more of a draw in the UK for you guys and in Canada more than he was in the United States. And that's why people like Ric Flair will always like smut their nose to Bret Hart's era. But I understand where Rambo's coming from, where both of those guys really wanted the top spot, Bret and Shawn, and that made the WWF title like feel more authentic, more real, more prestigious because of them fighting each other and trying to get to that top. But we saw in the A&E special, Bret and Shawn never got along. Like even the matchup that a lot of people herald as one of their best, the Iron Man match, Bret talks about them not really working with each other and stiffing each other during that matchup. And it's just like, you can see why Rock and Austin are viewed a little bit better as far as their feud in comparison to Shawn and Brett. Although Shawn and Brett's feud felt realer because it was real, Austin and Rock, in my opinion, had a better catalog of matches together because they were friends. I feel like when you're friends in the business, you're always gonna go out of your way to make the other guy look better, which makes the matches that much better, in my opinion. And that's why I think Rock Austin that's in WrestleMania 17 is by far the superior to the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12.
There you go. It's the apologies as well if I went off screen. I had some little connection issues there, but SB3, I could hear you going. So I was like, "Can he see me? Can he not?"
Yeah,
Is this like we had before?
I saw the spinning thing, so I was just like,
yeah, you know how that is. Here he is. You couldn't have an episode without Brett Thomas mentioning 2 words, Logan Paul. Will you both watch Logan Paul versus Floyd? You guys are the best. Happy belated birthday, SB3. I'll watch it just purely because I'm fascinated to see what on earth they come up with. This stipulation about Jake being banned from ringside, it sounds very wrestling. So I will watch it from a curiosity standpoint, as I'm sure most people will, whether they want to admit it or not. Really. What about you, SB3? Will you be watching this amazing boxing fight? I'm sure it'll be very competitive.
Of course, I have to watch it. Brett Thomas has he's commented on everything I do. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Tru Heel Heat, Wrestling Daily, Powered4SP3,
He'll be there.
Peter Wrestling. He's there. So he is so supportive of me. I have to support his Paul brother. So I'm gonna watch Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. But I'm sorry, Brett. I'm cheering for Mayweather. Mayweather is one of my favorite boxers ever. I feel like he brings the pro wrestling promos to boxing more than anyone before him. So
He's not the heel here though. It's hard for him to get over as a heel, I think, in this one.
That is crazy. That is crazy that Floyd for once is not the heel. He is the baby face. I know that Big Show wished that he had half the Tru Heel Heat that Logan Paul had at WrestleMania 24.
Yeah, no, agree. And also, Brett follows up with, also, can you ask Stu and Chris if they could just make it a triple threat match? Fury, Wilder, AJ. That would be epic, first time ever. You know what? Might as well. There's been a big big issue now with that fight up in the air because the arbitration have come down. They need Wilder and Fury to have another fight before September. So it's all sort of gone to pot really with that fight now. So I'm not sure what will happen. They were booked and scheduled for Saudi Arabia. So triple threat, first time ever, maybe. Just put Daniel Bryan in there. That's what he should do. Maybe that's where he's going. He'll be put in for the triple threat. Mark Lloyd, would you ever do a special episode of Powered 4 and Big Fight? You know, Big Fight Weekly getting a lot of mentions here. Yes, I'm sure we'd look at doing something like that down the line. I'm sure we can arrange that at some point. And speaking of Big Fight Week, there he is. Chris from Big Fight Weekly says, yes, that's it, lads. Get more comments in about Big Fight Weekly here. So he's trying to take over. It's like an invasion angle from DX at WCW. Fifth Gen, hope everyone is doing well. Hope you're well as well, my friend. Mark Lloyd, Chris, the best expert of MMA, SB3 of wrestling. There you go. Another high of praise. And finally, yay, my 4 p.m. window of enjoyment from Rachel. Thank you very much, Rachel. Well, you know what? It's like a lot of questions, but I know you guys, you get them in so early. So I try to go through them. It's good because it kind of brings up different conversations that we wouldn't normally have. So, fantastic. Keep them coming, people, with all that. Now, let's go straight into this because, of course, this past Sunday we had what I'm going to describe as WrestleMania with a backlash to zombies. That's what I'm going to call this one. I think they should have called it themselves. SP3, this was fascinating, to say the least, when I saw that point. But that aside, Backlash, I thought it was a good show. I know some people were complaining because they felt like Cesaro should have got more in, or he shouldn't have lost the way he did. But I'm like, you can't have everything. Those same people would have said a month ago Cesaro will never get a title shot. So you can only have so many people at the top. That's the real thing here. You can't all be going at once unless you're going to make 10 more world championships, which we really don't want to see. It's not about just, oh, you're here, so here's a special medal because you've shown up. I kind of feel like the tier system, we really know now that Roman Reigns has been acknowledged by the company, by everything on screen as, yeah, he is the man. And I think this is something they, failed to do for so many years. But, people like Cesaro, they're great wrestlers. Don't get me wrong. We saw a great match. But I never had any like crazy expectations of think that Cesaro would be walking out with the belt, quite frankly. But overall, SB3, what did you make of Backlash? And was this one of those shows that kind of just progressed more things, or did it lose some stuff? We know the zombies was a bit odd. I mean, Jericho tweeted about it as well, which I thought was funny, but I don't know what on earth they were doing. I know we've had things in the past like RoboCop come out and stuff like that, but honestly, I'm thinking
that was bad too. That was bad too.
It was very bad.
Reconfirmed. That was bad too. All I will say is that WrestleMania Backlash, other than the zombie match, was probably one of their best pay-per-views of the Thunderdome era. But it was also, to answer your question from after, it was also a pay-per-view that if you missed it, you pretty much didn't miss anything, to be honest. Like, I thought the women's opener, the three-way with Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Asuka was great. Too much in triple threat matches. You got 2 in, 1 out a lot, and this match really mixed it up. A lot of three-way spots. It went at a breakneck speed, and I think it was Charlotte Flair's best matchup since her return, and definitely Rhea Ripley's best matchup since coming to the main roster. I think all three ladies performed well. The finish was a little strange, with Charlotte kind of booting Asuka into the finish and then staying on the outside for some reason. Like, the momentum kept her outside, and she couldn't break up the cover, but that was a little weird. But other than that, that was a great opener. I thought the SmackDown Tag Team title match was solid work from the men involved. I felt like the booking was strange. It went 17 minutes, and that felt way long because of how they booked things. We got like 10 minutes of a handicap match with Rey Mysterio looking great. Rey Mysterio is ageless, it seems, that he is just incredible in the ring, and he's one of the best on the whole entire WWE roster. He proved that here in this matchup. But you spend 10 minutes beating him down. Then Dominic comes down, and he gets the hot tag, and then he gets immediately cut off. Then he gets beat down for a little bit longer. Then he makes a hot tag to Ray, and then he's immediately cut off. It was just very strange how they booked it. This is not how I would book that matchup. I think that the idea behind it was very well done, but the execution was a little bit off. But it was a solid matchup and a great moment with the Mysterios winning, becoming the first ever father-son tag team champions in WWE history. The less said about those zombies, the better. I thought it was the absolute worst match that I've seen in 2021, and that is saying a lot. That was saying a lot, because if you guys remember, I was very adamant about The Fiend versus Randy Orton being the worst thing I've seen in WWE in years. And the fact that that is not going to be the worst match of the year says everything you need to know about zombie lumberjacks. And Damian Priest, man, they are just putting him behind the 8 ball. He has to play the sidekick of Bad Bunny for his first 4 months on the main roster, and then he gets zombies lumberjacks when he finally can be able to separate himself. It's ridiculous, but like I said, the less said about that, the better, because we got good action the rest of the night. Bayley and Bianca was a good matchup. I feel like this was very much the Bayley show, because Bayley is just incredible. She's a great professional wrestler and really was able to build the story through, Bianca's great athleticism and strength, and Bayley just had the facial expressions, the trash talk, and just worked the rib section of Bianca very well. And I very much enjoyed the ripcord, using the ponytail into the belly to belly, and then the hair coming into play in the finish was very well done. And it sets up a rematch, which I said they needed to do on the Sportskeeda Wrestling WrestleMania Backlash Backlash preview that I did with Pete Cannell that you could check out. I said they needed to have a finish that made Bayley be able to, talk her way into a rematch, and they did that well. I thought the final two matches were excellent. The three-way for the WWE Championship matchup, that was a horse fight in every sense of the word. That was probably the best Braun Strowman has looked since 2017. Like this was Braun Strowman at his best. Him doing a somersault off the apron. Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley deserve a lot of credit because he could have fell on his neck and it would have been tragic. But it was just nonstop action. Braun took a Michinoku driver. He took a belly to belly on the outside. Power bomb Drew McIntyre through the table. I thought the finish was a little bit too WWE triple threat tropey and Drew hitting the Claymore and getting thrown out the ring, and then Bobby Lashley hitting the spear for the win. But it was a strong matchup and a strong precursor to what we saw in the main event. The main event was absolutely outstanding. Like, Roman Reigns is on the run of a lifetime. I've debated off and on the first 4 to 5 months of this year of who's the biggest star in professional wrestling between Roman Reigns and Kenny Omega. But between his matchup on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago with Danny O'Brien and then this great matchup against Cesaro here at WrestleMania Backlash, Roman Reigns has the crown right now. Kenny's going to have to do a lot to take back it or even make it close again, because it's now a certified Roman is number one, Kenny is number two, because Roman is just on the top of his game, just working the arm over. This was like an old school wrestling matchup, strong psychology, great storytelling, and an awesome finish. And Roman getting the finish without, Jey Uso interfering when he's interfered in literally every single matchup since he's become the right-hand man to Roman Reigns, I thought was a great touch. The post-match angle I was not too sold on, but it is probably going to build to a Cesaro versus Seth Rollins matchup at Hell in a Cell. I like the announcement that Hell in a Cell is going to be in June, because we could possibly see Roman versus Jimmy Uso inside the cell, and that's a little bit of a great story to tell because of how Jey Uso became the right-hand man because he lost to Roman inside the cell. We could see the same thing happen to Jimmy here, and the fact that the first pay-per-view in front of fans will most likely be Money in the Bank. So a whole bunch of good things coming out of the show, and also the worst thing that I've seen from WWE this whole year.
Yeah, it was bad. It's a shame because something so small always gets the most attention. It's just like, blood and guts and all the rest of it. It's the little tiniest things get spoken about the most coming out of it. Mark Lloyd saying it was embarrassing, really bad. Yeah, you can't defend it. That's the thing. There's no way you could defend it. I don't know, why on earth they come up with that at all. I know what they were trying to do, but I don't know, to have your wrestlers sacrificed looking ridiculous for it. It was almost like, you remember in the old 2K games where you can do your own storylines and you can come up with some stupid, it was like that, but having wrestlers play the most ridiculous parts and just customizing it. Really, really bad. Not a fan of that. I do not want to see too much more. I hope that they see the reaction and think, okay, let's not go there again. But maybe they'll think, oh, well, any reaction's good reaction, so we'll do more.
Hey, they got an article in the New York Post calling it the saddest moment in WWE history. Wow, I don't think that's the type of pub they want.
Yeah, let's hope not. Fans returning to WWE on July 16th to 19th, which also will include the Money in the Bank. Obviously, we spoke about this a little bit last week, SP3, about AEW were going to be branching out early, and so were MLW. So do you think this is a bit of a reactional thing from Vin Mac himself when they planted it on his desk and he thought, you know what, we need to get a move on? Get me out. Let's get some fans back. What do you make of this?
Well, it was first reported by Andrew Zarian of the Matman podcast over on WrestlingObserver.com that the WWE will be returning with fans in attendance starting on July 16th for Friday Night SmackDown, the go-home show, to Money in the Bank. And then Money in the Bank will be the first pay-per-view with fans in attendance. And then they will follow up that with Raw the following night. And then things will pretty much go back to normal. WWE will be following the CDC guidelines. So it's going to be great to get back to normal for WWE, have fans in attendance. They will be able to know better who's over, who's not over. And the fans, it seems that they're going to be more likely to listen to the fans, because we had stuff like, at WrestleMania, the fans cheering for Tamina during the whole tag team gauntlet, and then the matchup the following night against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, which led to Tamina and Natalya winning the women's tag team titles on SmackDown this week. So that shows us that WWE is probably looking more to the fan reaction to find out who's over, to find out who they should push. So hopefully we'll get more of that with the fans coming back. And you gotta know that the fans are going to be excited to be there, and especially starting things off with Money in the Bank, I think was a wise decision. Money in the Bank is usually probably the fourth or fifth biggest pay-per-view for WWE every single year, and it kind of gives you a roadmap of who is going to be, one of the important players or two of the important players going into the rest of the year. So it's a great pay-per-view for fans to be back on, and I'm excited for the fans to be back in attendance for WWE. Thunderdome has been great, but piped in crowd noise and WWE dictating how the fans react, never my cup of tea. And also Andrew Zarian says that with the return of fans, we're going to get new sets for both SmackDown and Raw. And I've had a couple of people on different shows I do in the live chat asking why WWE doesn't have like different sets for pay-per-views. We may be seeing more of that with the fans coming back. So there's a lot to be excited about with fans coming back to WWE.
That would be good. I feel like pay-per-views, I know they kind of maybe think, well, it's not a pay-per-view anymore, so we can kind of get away with not having the elaborate stages. I know that'll be their excuse, but like the identity of pay-per-views in the last 10 years, it's very hard to distinguish what on earth you're watching. Whereas in the 90s and early 2000s, you can really know you're at Judgment Day or you're at No Mercy. They all had very particular styles and looks. Backlash used to have these crazy things going in and out as guys used to walk up the ramp, as I recall. And yeah, it was kind of a fun time. But like, yeah, nowadays, not as much effort brought into those stages. I'm hoping Raw gets a little bit of a decent revamp, because every time they change it, it's like you notice it for a week and then it just becomes the norm again. So I'm hoping, better music, maybe they'll change the nameplate, stuff like that. But SmackDown is the one, but don't give us, I tell you what, I don't want to see SP3 graphics. I don't want to see graphics. I want to see actual, props on the stage. I don't want to see graphics anymore. I'm fed up with it. Especially that awful bloody fist. I couldn't stand it when I saw it. Guys, we're going to be talking more wrestling after this quick short break. We'll be talking about NXT from last night, the recap of that, and also some problems within the Elite. Keep your comments coming. We will get to them during the show. What we're going to get to now, this is from 1PW, one of our big archives that we have on Powered4.TV. So let's check out the little highlight. Here we go.
Just the impact. All you need. Lands on his feet, and Williams just flings him upside down into the buckle.
Yes, there you go. A Cruel Twist of Fate, which was the first ever 1PW show in the UK at Doncaster at the time. It was quite a big deal. And the name, Cruel Twist of Fate, of course, was after Matt Hardy. Now, he'd just left WWE, and that was over the old Lita Edge fiasco. And nobody saw that it was kind of like an inner working, and he ended up re-signing for WWE, hence why he never made it to 1PW. So instead they brought in the likes of AJ Styles and Carino and Abyss and all the rest of it to make up for it. But yes, Matt Hardy was going to be the main event that night, because Matt Hardy, believe it or not, at that time was so over. It was like, who can get him next because of what had happened in WWE. It's so bizarre. But he was way over. Like, you know, you always think of Jeff always being the guy, but at that time, it was all about Matt. So he was very much the guy. But you can check that out right now, along with all the other great stuff from 1PW. Like I say, they have some great cards, matches that you probably wouldn't have seen many other places, because they just managed to get promotions working together, which, you know, at that time, even at that time, was very bizarre. But don't forget, one code you've got to use, SP3, 50% off your first month, SP3, simple as that. Go over, check it out. Whilst we're here, SP3, and we're doing a little bit of plugging, because you know we like to do a little bit of plugging, a little bit of cheap pops, as Mick Foley would say. Let's give you guys a little plug here. We got the A&E biography, as mentioned earlier, Shawn Michaels review. Go ahead, check that over at Tru Heel Heat. A lot of my listeners have already seen this, because I believe they were watching live. It would have been 5 p.m. in the UK, and they were kind of like holding out for our next couple of shows. So I think they thought, hang on a minute, we've got like a really good pre-show to watch. Let's get on and check out Tru Heel Heat. But you guys did a fantastic job there. I've got to finish watching the rest of that. Also, another big announcement today is this from TNT Extreme Wrestling, June the 26th. They've also announced another big match, Kid Like Us 2 up against Jody Fleisch, who never seems to age. Jody Fleisch, for whatever reason, they said this guy should not be doing the moves he's doing. He'll never last. He'll never be an old wrestler because he'll be too battered and injured. He's the reverse. He just doesn't stop, Jody Fleisch. I tell you, he's always there. He's looking in incredible shape as well. So, yeah, that's not a match that you're going to want to miss. So check that out, people. Should be very good. Okay, SP3, it's time to move on. Hang on, before we go, what we got here. Honest Beyond, you guys know your stuff. Yes, we do. We'll take that in abundance. We will take that, no doubt about it. And Rambo, who will get the Money in the Bank? Otis again? I hope not. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much. But after Otis winning, I mean, anyone could probably get it. Are there going to be two of them again, SP3, or is it just back to one?
No, it's going to be a woman's and a male Money in the Bank winner. Woman who, I mean, Sasha Banks is a good one to get her back into the title picture, maybe. Sasha Banks might be the route that they go if we're talking about anyone on the main roster right now. We may see someone get called up like a Io Shirai or a Toni Storm. Maybe they would be an option to win the Money in the Bank, or Mia Yim, who's supposed to be debuting on SmackDown, is another good option. On the male side, I would love for Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn having Money in the Bank with his current character would be fantastic. I can also see someone like Cesaro, who has a bunch of momentum coming off the best singles matchup of his career against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash. He's going to probably verse Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell, and then follow that up with Money in the Bank the next month. And that would be the biggest win of his career outside of beating Seth at WrestleMania, winning Money in the Bank. So there's a lot of good options on up and down on both the male and female roster for WWE right now. Mostly, as you see on SmackDown, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, the poor guy at Tru Heel Heat who's taking on Raw. I'm sure he'll be feeding back to you what his experiences are like.
Romeo and Drunk Guy. Actually, an hour before we went live here, Romeo and Drunk Guy, we had our debut episode of Rated Raw Superstars. They reviewed Monday Night Raw, the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania Backlash. So they reviewed that. That's up on the YouTube channel right now, so you could check it out right after this Powered 4 SP3.
Yeah, no, yeah, that'll be good. I'm pulling for those guys. I tell you, it's a tough gig. It really is a tough gig. SB3 NXT recap now. Then, we've been very highly praising this in the last few weeks. A lot of my listeners have told me they've gone back into it because of you putting it over SB3. So, WWE need to credit you somewhere. I think you need to get in there as an influencer here, SB3. But I haven't seen NXT from last night. I know nothing, but what was it like? Was it still keeping to the standard that we're now used to?
Yeah. I don't think it was as great as last week, but this was another very strong episode. I thought the main event was awesome. Great piece of business. They made Bronson Reed look like an absolute stud out there, becoming the new North American champion.
I heard, yes.
Really, really, really good steel cage matchup against Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano just knows how to make his opponents look like absolute stars, and he did that with Bronson Reed here. I very much enjoyed Hit Row. Hit Row is probably my favorite act in NXT right now. They just ooze charisma, and each member kind of shows little signs that they can become stars on their own. Even someone like Ashanti the Adonis, who I was not interested in at all when he was first introduced. I thought he was just another jobber, another guy like pre-Street Profits Angelo Dawkins, a guy that was going to be in the developmental for a very, very long time because they couldn't find a role for him, but they now have found a perfect role for him, and he looked really good in the tag team squash. And Top Dollar, I think it's just going to be a bona fide star on his own. And Swerve just looks more and more like a main event type of talent now that he's surrounded by this group that is just so charismatic, so fun, and you just instantly either are gonna love or hate them. So that's why I love Hit Row right now. I'm on the love part, as you see. Index is still running and still alive, as Indy Hartwell found out that it was Candice LeRae that sent the flowers and the roses to Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. So I'm all for Index. I am pro Index right now, even though that creepy stalker tried to massage Indy while she had cucumbers on her eyes, which was
God,
kind of weird. It was kind of weird. The opener was really solid matchup with Toni Storm over Zoe Stark. Her new finisher, which is based on her trainer, he did he called it, I think it was like a Riptide type of like cutter, and he told her to make it a DDT version, and it was just amazing. And it's a new finisher for Toni Storm, where I felt like the Storm Zero is more like a signature move or a transitional move to get a good near fall. This feels like more of a finisher that can really elevate Toni Storm up the card. And I like what they're doing with pretty much every division. I thought Ciampa and Thatcher versus Legado del Fantasma was a pretty good matchup. The tag team division, I really enjoyed how they restocked that tag team division, which I thought was the weakest part of NXT. And it was, for a while, it just felt like everybody was getting a turn at becoming the NXT tag team champions, since they couldn't get Pete Dunne back to reform the Broserweights with Matt Riddle. They had Imperium get a title run. They had Breeze Angle get a title run. Birch and Lorgan get a title run. It just felt like everybody was just getting a turn. Now
hot potato.
Exactly. Now it feels like they're restocking it, where there's a bunch of different tag teams that you can reasonably see in the future becoming the tag team champions, like Grizzled Young Veterans, like Thatcher and Ciampa, even a team like Legado del Fantasma, who I wasn't really very high on. They definitely are very exciting in the ring and always entertain in their matches, and they did that last night against Thatcher and Ciampa. So I like what they're doing with the tag division. The women's division is always stacked and studded. Frankie Monet is going to debut next week. They had a fine piece of business hyping up the Balor versus this Cross 2 matchup for next week on NXT. And they've just been doing a very good job at building towards their main events on these shows. Like I said, the steel cage match was great. Last week's 2 out of 3 falls match was awesome. You had the 6-man tag with Legado del Fantasma versus MSK and Kushida a couple of weeks ago. They've been really building it well with main events, and then next week with Balor and Cross is no exception. So I'm really enjoying what NXT is delivering, and it's definitely benefiting from not being directly compared to AEW anymore.
I 100% agree. I think that is definitely the big takeaway from this. A couple of questions just coming in here. We got Rachel Cornell again. Do you think Eva Marie gets too much hate? She's like the female version of Jake Paul. I like her. I never used to. She's nice now. She's nice now, SP3. She's changed. I mean, back in the day, it was hard to like someone like an Eva Marie, the way she was being portrayed on Total Divas, especially because on Total Divas, you're told that's the reality. So yes. I don't know if that was the real reality or they were going that narrative way with her, but she had a lot of stumbling blocks. But I've heard since she's gone away, her attitude has changed. She's become very big within the fitness world. Her body's slightly changed as well. And I mean, is she a star SP3, would you say? Or is she still very much like she's only a star because she gets people wowed up? And that's the only reason that she's creating anything. Where do you sit with Eva Marie? We haven't spoke about it actually since it was announced, but I know everyone's got an opinion. It is mostly negative, but where do you lie with Eva Marie?
I agree with Rachel. I think that Eva gets way too much hate. People have even gone as far to allude to her being the reason why the Iconics and Mickie James aren't here anymore. I don't think she's a part of the firing process, and I'm pretty sure the rumors were said that she has been with WWE for 3 or 4 months before they even started these vignettes. So to make that illusion is just ridiculous. So yeah, I do agree that she gets too much hate. On the other hand, I think that it is one of the dumbest and awful booking decisions that they are trying to portray her as a babyface. There is nothing about Eva Marie that says babyface, because when you look at those vignettes, it doesn't even seem like a wrestling vignette. It seems like she's starting a new reality show, honestly. I feel like
are they doing that deliberately, though, do you think? I
feel like I'm watching a commercial for Keeping Up with the Kardashians more than I'm watching someone about to return to WWE. Honestly.
Who's her fella? Who was that guy? He was always in Total Divas as well. What was his name? Maybe they should get him involved with it.
That's her husband. That's her husband.
Yeah, get him in.
I don't know. This is one person. I mean, if you put Reginald with her, maybe this would work. I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this, but it doesn't come off like a wrestler is about to debut, and I think it's a huge mistake if they're going to present her as a babyface, especially with the fact that fans are 2 months away from returning. This is not going to go over well, and she's not going to generate cheers.
They'll probably put her with Roman. Imagine that.
She's on Monday Night Raw, to be fair. So
that's true. And I agree. I'm glad you said that, SP3, because when anybody asks me about it on other podcasts, I'm almost like fighting my own corner because they all go on about Mickie James, and I'm like, look, it's not just wrestling as an industry that's cutthroat. I mean, I used to do acting many years ago, SP3. I traveled to LA, and I tell you, it's cutthroat as anything. And the one thing I realized was that a lot of the best actors weren't getting signed. They were miles better than me. But what did they want? They wanted marketability and they wanted likability in a person. And so when you get to that area, it is very cutthroat. It isn't as like, well, we know Mickie James is 100% a better wrestler than Eva Marie. We know that. Yeah. But it's not the only industry that is like that, is what I'm trying to get at. And I don't think Eva Marie rung up Vince and said, okay, you got to make funds for me, so drop some of the other talent so I can come in. That wouldn't have happened. This kind of stuff happens all the time. So yeah, I say give her a chance. Let's see what's presented. time will tell. Time will definitely tell there. Who knows how long that
Did we lose John, or John frozen? Is John frozen in time? Oh man, I think we lost John. We lost John. No. His Wi-Fi has betrayed him.
tracks for.
Oh, there is John back? There you go.
I'm back. I don't know. It keeps doing this, SP3. I think WWE are trying to say something to me.
So John, I have some huge news here. Just tweeted out by Sean Rossap of Fightful Wrestling, who I have to give credit. He's one of the top guys when it comes to scoops in professional wrestling. I think he's a part of the pro wrestling journalists Mount Rushmore. I actually shared the screen with him on Quizzlemania 34. He's the reigning Quizzlemania. Yes, I was. He's the reigning Quizzlemania champion, and I shared the screen with him for the SmackDown post show on Fightful, and he just tweeted out, AEW Dynamite will be moving to TBS starting in January 2022, and AEW Rampage, which will be their second show, it will debut as a 1-hour show on Friday, August 13th on TNT at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Wow. This is huge. I will say that this shouldn't be really seen as a downgrade, honestly, because TBS is available in more homes. But this was kind of alluded to when they talked about Warner Media brought the rights to the NHL package. So yes, NHL greater than professional wrestling. So AEW Dynamite will be moving to TBS starting in January 2022. Breaking news.
Damn, didn't see that coming. Gotta be
honest. Did not see that coming either. At all.
There you go. Thank you very much there, SP3, for breaking that news as reported there. Big stuff. Obviously, we've alluded to the fact that maybe there would be a change in the days, but clearly, moving pieces all over the place there. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes. Obviously, check out more news as it comes, I'm sure. Just briefly, SP3, to finish up on the show, more bad news. I'm hearing from New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm guessing I was doing a little bit of reading up on this, and from the likes of it, it's looking a little bit complicated, because even though they say they could come back, it's like they're trying to keep face, I think. And the Japanese culture, they try to do that anyway. And like you alluded to as well, the Olympics or whatever is going to be like, that's a big issue at the moment. So I think they're trying to be like, oh, everything will be okay. But it's like, I don't think they can quite know themselves, and so I think they might be trying to keep face here. What information have you got currently, SP3?
Well, basically, what they've had this big COVID outbreak. It was first reported following Wrestling Dontaku Night 2. They had to do a lot of shuffling of the card because 2 wrestlers had tested positive. It then was later linked about a week later that it was 7 more wrestlers who tested positive. Recently, David Finley's father, Fit Finley, did an interview on Gerald Briscoe's podcast, and he confirmed that David Finley was one of the wrestlers who tested positive for COVID-19. He was going to return to the United States because they did cancel the big Wrestle Grand Slam shows on May 15th and May 29th, and he was going to go back home to the United States, but he was stopped because he tested positive for COVID-19. Him, along with Switchblade Jay White, were 2 of the guys that Fit Finley confirmed were taken back to the New Japan dojo and were quarantining there as they recover from getting the virus. But it's a really big issue. We talked about the state of emergency a couple of weeks ago here on Powered4SP3. New Japan announced this week that they are returning to events again on May 22nd. This was very helpful for the foreign talent, which were going to have to go back home, and then it would have been a very big issue because you need to do a 2-week quarantine before you're able to compete for New Japan with their new CDC guidelines that they have for the roster. So it's a very touch and go type of situation right now. Fit Finley even talked about on the podcast that this whole situation with COVID-19 and the situation right now in Japan has caused David Finley to kind of think about his future. Although he's a very important to the tag division in New Japan, and him and Juice Robinson are the current Impact Wrestling tag team champions due to the partnership between Impact and New Japan. He's a guy that's thinking about his future, thinking about maybe if he wants to go to WWE or what other options he has out there. So this probably is not a one-person thing. It's probably a situation that a lot of the other talent are also thinking about due to how it's been very much not a good situation when it comes to the whole pandemic for New Japan at the current moment.
Not good news there then. So we'll have to keep our ears to the ground there. And finally, SP3, just to summarize this, then problems in the Elite. Lots of fans have been emailing me almost with enjoyment, almost with pleasure for some reason for AEW, as we always say. But where's this come from, SP3? Like, how has this sort of come out? And obviously, a few little bits of tensions. Where's the main focus with this then?
Well, basically, this was first reported by Wade Keller on PW4s on his flagship podcast that he basically thinks that let me just repeat that. He thinks that there's issues within the Elite, and there's going to be like a whole documentary about like the issues that the guys are having. He said he even alluded to the members of the Elite are not on speaking terms at the current moment. And Jason Powell was also on the podcast, who's a great writer for ProWrestling.net. He said that these issues within the Elite are known throughout the inner circles of the professional wrestling world. And one big difference maker who's a free agent right now, who could potentially sign with AEW, is hesitant to sign due to the problems within the Elite. This caused Wade Keller to be like, if there is no issues, that the Elite needs to make that known, because the perception is that there is some type of problems within those guys. And in response to that, the Young Bucks, who have been on top of their Twitter game in a very unique way, not with tweets, but with their bio, changing their bios every so often to kind of troll fans or make jokes. They put on their bio, not on speaking terms currently, which Cody Rhodes retweeted as the new bio. So basically the illusion that Wade Keller was trying to put out there was that the Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they're basically separate, because that's what we're seeing on television. Cody is in his own stratosphere doing stuff. He had the good run as TNT champion, the good feud with Brody Lee, but ever since he's lost the TNT championship, he's kind of been all over the place. He's been celebrity matches with Shaq. He's been feuding with QT Marshall and Anthony Ogogo and the rest of the factory, while the Elite are more in like the main event scene. Kenny Omega, the world champion, the Young Bucks, the tag team champions. They've reunited the Elite, and the story is more about, Hangman on the outside looking in than Cody on the outside looking in. But I can say, you always want to think that where there's smoke, there's fire. So maybe there is some differences that they're having, which Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer message board did confirm that he says that the rumors are not true, that the Elite are on speaking terms. But he was like, any problems or any differences that they have is basically just on philosophy, because, Cody comes from a different background. He comes from more of like the WCW days and being in WWE, from that type of mentality of how he views wrestling, to the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, which come from the independents, come from Japan, so they see wrestling in a different way. But at the end of the day, Dave Meltzer has confirmed that they all come together, and at the end, it's all Tony Khan's philosophy that is the main starting point for AEW. So I know there's people out there. I know the good brother Rambo, who is a great supporter. He's very adamant about his. It's hatred. It comes across as hatred. He'd probably say he doesn't hate them, but he comes across as a hater of AEW. So he was probably like, yes, yes, there's issues, there's problems. Yes. No, I think it's a little bit too Yeah, I don't think that it's as big of an issue as Wade Keller has put out there. Wade Keller is not really a scoopster, so he doesn't put himself out there that often. So that's why I say where there's smoke, there's fire. I have enough respect for him to probably tell that maybe he's heard something about a difference in opinion that they've had. So yeah, maybe there's that, but I don't think that they're not on speaking terms. And the Young Bucks kind of proved that by putting out that bio, which Cody retweeted.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. And you know what? Maybe they paid Wade Keller money to get it out there. Like, if it is internally an issue, what I would do is I'd use it as a positive and I'd play on it a little bit more, because it's really hard in this day and age to blindside these Mark fans that are so into it, that read all this stuff from the people like Wade Keller. And you know, if I was them, I'd actually use these people to my own benefit, get them on the payroll and get them printing. Because it's very hard these days to kind of keep the blurred lines. But it's similar to how I guess people used to think about Triple H and Shane McMahon, whether there was discrepancies, but WWE never followed it up in storylines. But if they had done, it would probably be one of those ones that is actually, you want to tune into Raw to see them go at it on the mic, because that might be worth seeing. But they never really did that. So, you know, it always brings me back to the days of CM Punk when he was doing those crazy promos on Triple H, calling him Paul, and Kevin Nash calling him out for Oz and all the rest of it. Like, that's what they need to be doing, because fans are so damn smart. They need to blur the lines more. So if I was Cody and the Young Bucks and all the rest of it, I would work this in a way it can benefit them 100%.
I agree. I think it would be great if they did like Cody and Kenny Omega for the AEW world title. Like, I know they have the stipulation that Cody can go after the world title, but you can make it like after a few months, you know, Omega's gone through everybody. Hangman Page still doesn't want to step up to him. And he basically says the only guy he wants to verse now is Cody. Like, he makes the challenge to Cody more than Cody going after the title, I think would work. And in addition to the announcement that I had earlier about, and this was by Tony Khan, he announced it on Busted Open Radio today, that the AEW second show Rampage will be coming on August 13th to TNT Friday nights at 10 p.m. in 2022. AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage will be moving to TBS. So that's 2 hours on Wednesday, 1 hour on Fridays. Rampage is going to debut on TNT on August 13th. But also, he also announced that that's not going to end the presence of AEW on TNT. They will be, starting in 2022, doing special events like Saturday night's main event on TNT. So this is huge, honestly. This is more homes that they're available in on TBS in comparison to TNT. And they're still going to be on TNT, but it's going to be more of like Saturday night's main event when WWE would come on NBC occasionally. And I think that's huge for AEW and all of the wrestling right now.
Absolutely sounds it. And yeah, lots to look forward to, lots to get into, more nights of wrestling. So, especially Friday with SmackDown. So that's got to be very interesting going forward, isn't it? Rambo, just quickly, in Mania season, will you put the logo on your graphics so you both can point at it? Yeah, I will do, Rambo. Next year,
this one.
We'll go. Yeah, we'll put it up on the top bit, and we can just both point at it every week and challenge each other. We won't talk, we just point, and that means there's a match going to happen. But yes, thank you as always, SP3, for coming on, giving us your incredible insight. Thank you everybody for participating in the comments. As we always do, SP3, where can we find you this week?
This week, you can find me, of course, later on today, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. BST, on the Wrestling Daily YouTube channel with Alex McCarthy. We're going to be talking about NXT a little bit more in depth. We're going to be talking about this huge news with AEW going over to TBS and the Saturday night main event specials on TNT. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, probably a great debate as well. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel later today, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 p.m. BST with Jose Gonzalez. We're going to be talking about probably the AEW news on there as well. I'm going to be back on Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. As always, we go live Friday morning. We're going to go live with our Dark Side of the Ring review. This week, it's on the Korea, the South Korea show with WCW and New Japan. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Collision in Korea, that show from the 90s. We're going to be talking about that on our live stream. And we're going to be our latest episode, our latest weekly podcast, Tru Heel Heat 126 with myself, Top Guy JJ, and Miss Chrissy Love. That goes up on Saturday. But you can go to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel right now. You can see our review of Monday Night Raw with Drunk Guy JJ and Romeo, Rated Raw Superstars, the debut review. Yes, we have someone that is blessing us with a review of Monday Night Raw. Later this week, we got our new review of SmackDown with Richie Moon. He's going to be breaking down all the action on SmackDown over there. And you can see me on a whole bunch of interviews for Battle Club Pro, May the Franchise Reign on May 29th. My latest interview with the great independent star and one of the most sought after independent wrestlers in the world, Lee Moriarty. We talked about his matchup versus Trisha Dora and Ken Broadway at Battle Club Pro, May the Franchise Reign. But thank you, John. It's been such a great episode. We got the break news. We got to talk about WrestleMania Backlash, Zombies, Survivor Series 1996. This has been a great episode of Powered4SP3. And you got me a box-like shaped structure, and you got me a Bret Hart autographed t-shirt. Like, I'm already envisioning my wife is going to want to frame that and put that on our wall, because my wife is a bigger Bret Hart fan than even me.
There you go. Well, you're welcome, SP3. And thank you, 5th Gen, as well. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Guys, don't forget, go over, like, and subscribe. Like I said, we're 100 short of the 2K mark. I kind of want to hit it by the end of the month. And don't forget to subscribe over at Tru Heel Heat. All the links are on here. We don't need to tell you where to go. Use SP3, the code. 50% off your first month on powered4.tv. As always, to everyone, I hope you all have a good week. Enjoy the wrestling. And we will be back next week with, I'm sure, even more information on this whole AEW thing and fiasco by then. But thank you. Take care, SP3. We'll see you next week.